Hello, and welcome to Health and Fitness Redefined. I'm your host, Anthony Amen. Join me today as we take a dive into the world of health and fitness, where we learn to overcome adversity, to pick the fact versus fiction, and see health and fitness in a whole new light. Today, we're going to talk about all sides of fitness, and I'm really excited to have this well-educated. He's been all over the map. He just brings so much information. I don't know how we're going to put this into the time span, and we're probably going to need like 12 more episodes of this guy. So without further ado, let me welcome to the show, Matthew Januszek. Matt, welcome, man. It's a pleasure having you on.
Thanks for inviting me. We kind of practiced that surname part, but we kind of a little bit more practice needed there. But it's Januszek, but you did a good job.
Thank you. It's the names that always get me, man. Mine's too easy.
Thanks for inviting me on.
It's an absolute pleasure, and I'm just from talking to you a little bit pre-show. I'm excited with all the experience and kind of where you're at with your life. So take us back to the beginning. So what got you into becoming a junior powerlifter? Well, how did that come about?
Yeah, it was junior bodybuilding, and it was Arnold Schwarzenegger and pumping iron were responsible for that. So one day I fell off my roller skates and managed to get some time off school. Didn't like school at all, so any excuse to have a few days off, then I was there, and sat at home, got pumping iron on a VHS, what do they call them? Like video cassette recorder. I don't think, maybe many of your listeners wouldn't have even seen some of those, but I had that, and just watched it over and over again, and decided that I wanted to stand up on stage and be Mr. Olympia one day. So I didn't quite manage the Mr. Olympia part, but I did get up on stage quite a few times and got a good base, understood about training and discipline and diet, and that was really the sort of start of probably where I am today, I guess.
How did you learn that? Well, so how old were you when you had your accident?
I was probably about 15. So I started working out when I was 15. I'm 51 years old now, so I've been doing it all those years. I've not really stopped, apart from the odd injury and a little bit of COVID and things like that. But yeah, pretty consistent. So yeah, just my goals have obviously changed as I've got older. It's when I was younger, it's about getting a great body and picking up girls, and that was really. I was a doorman in nightclubs when I was younger as well. So that was kind of like the image the image and the lifestyle that I had when I was a sort of a teenager. But then as you get older, it becomes less about that and more about the mental benefits of fitness and being able to perform at a high level. I've got a business that's based around the globe. I'm in the US. We've got a big operation in Europe, and business in Asia as well. So now it's really just being able to sort of use my fitness in helping with my mental health and being able to sort of do everything that's required as an entrepreneur as well.
And you mentioned your business, and it's called Escape Fitness, which was a very interesting topic. The company's been around, you said, for 25 years, but talk us about what got you to start it. What made you say, hey, I love being in the gym so much, I'm going to pull the trigger and do something in the fitness field?
Well, I think everyone's had dreams. Well, not everyone, but a lot of people have dreams of owning their own gym, particularly someone that's into fitness or bodybuilding. And so we looked at that, and that wasn't, we tried a few sort of, look for locations and look for funding, and it just didn't work. So I one day, my father, that was working for another business, and we had a conversation and said, look, we'd like to set some business up together. It was initially it was more of a financial reason, because my father had sort of reached the end of a road in terms of what he was doing, and always had a dream of starting his own business. And I wanted to get into an industry that I was passionate about, and health and fitness was one of those. But at the time, it could have been anything that would have made money. So the only thing that was really that we both sort of I guess, agreed upon was he was an engineer and felt that manufacturing, particularly manufacturing in Eastern Europe, particularly Poland, was what he felt we should consider, because there was a great opportunity with doing that at the time. And for me, I wanted to do something that was fun. I wanted to get out, meet people, and if it could be in the fitness space, that was mine. And we managed to, I had an idea about making dumbbells and weight plates. And he was able to find a factory and actually start manufacturing those. And that was really the beginning. We started selling dumbbells and plates, and from literally from a spare room in our house at the time when I was living at home. And then, now we're, as I said, we're in about 80 countries, and we have hundreds of products that we sell to all kinds of gyms, training studios, apartment complexes, everyone from Apple, Google, UFC gym. We supply products all over.
That's absolutely amazing. And the gym equipment world is something that we all know about, but I don't think we know anything about. If that makes sense. We all hear these names and we go, yeah, whatever. But no one really knows the difference and understanding of what type of equipment it is, what's the benefits of certain stuff. And so just really briefly, just walk us through what makes Escape Fitness unique and what you guys do, and how are your products like better, and what are they like? Explain them a little more, what these products are. We go to the gym, because I can just tell you, I have clients that walk in and they go, I don't know what any of this is.
Yeah, that's the problem. Like we specialize more in what we call the functional training space. So I guess when I started in the industry, it was very much about machines and cardio, and the layout used to be between about 60 and 80% cardio, CV, as they sort of used to call it, and then the rest was fixed machines, that you used to sit down on predominantly, and then there was a small area where they may have some stretching and a few dumbbells. That was what gyms used to look like when we started our company. The machines then got bigger, and then they went into more plate load equipment, and now you're sort of seeing, probably off the thanks to CrossFit, is you're seeing these big functional training spaces, group training spaces, that kind of stuff. And that's the area that we're in. We have all kinds of products that allow you to do that training either in a group or on your own. And as you say, the challenge with a lot of these training tools, even for trainers, is understanding really how to use them, how to get the most out of them, and how to get the results through that. So, and a part of our company is education. So we train trainers and go into clubs and show them how to put workouts together and build programs for their clients, so that people can really understand it. And I suppose, for, depending on the type of people that are listening to this, I think, a lot of people think that going out and buying the latest piece of equipment that's out there is really what you need to reach your health and fitness goals. But I would say, if you're going to invest in anything, first is probably make an investment in a good trainer. And there's a lot of there's good and bad trainers out there, but find a good trainer, because you could probably get pretty far without actually a huge amount of equipment. There's some basic things that you need, but I know myself included, through the pandemic where gyms were closed, still managed to get in pretty good shape without really having access to a gym. People really underestimate some of the things that you can do by being very clever, using bands and tubes and light weights and kettlebells and things like that. But the trick is really understanding the training and programming around that. So invest in a good trainer, and then through that you'll get to understand what's the best piece of equipment, as opposed to looking at something on an infomercial and thinking that that's going to solve your fitness problems, because it doesn't. It doesn't work.
Yeah, I really couldn't agree more with you on that. It's finding a good training and finding somebody to really help understand what you want out of the gym, because we all have different goals. We all have different understandings. Maybe it's injury prevention. Maybe it's mental health. That's something you mentioned. And I love that. And I know we've talked about it on previous shows about trainer certifications and what we think should happen in the world. But I want to get your opinion on it, because I know you guys do offer those certifications for trainers. So what do you think, as someone that's looking to become a personal trainer that maybe are certain keys to help them really understand how the body works? Is it certain things that are better than others, like certain courses or curriculum that they need to understand? what would you say to someone that's looking to get started as a trainer?
Yeah, I think it depends who you speak to, and you can speak to purists, and they will have education purists. We've got people in our business that have certain ideas about this, but I think in general, without confusing people, is just through some research, there are some extremely good education companies that will provide you with your basic fitness instructor qualification or a personal trainer qualification. So I would suggest do your research, find a really good organization that's progressive, that's keeping up to date with the latest information, that is keeping up to date with new ways of learning, because that's the other key thing is nowadays the technology, and we all learn in different ways. So you want to, some of the companies that we work with have some really clever ways of being able to deliver education and be able to absorb it and be able to understand how to apply it, which is really important. You can learn all you want, but it's really about the application of it. So find a good company. There's plenty out there, and get your basic industry qualifications, and there are standards out there that people need to meet, and that would be pretty straightforward. And I think the other thing is to then kind of decide, like anything, where do you want to specialize? Is it just general population? Is it particular niches? Is it sport specific? Older clients, what have you? And then kind of further develop those skills so that you can be a little bit more of an expert, or you can position yourself differently from everyone else, because at the end of the day, it's going to come down to sales and marketing in terms of how successful you will be. So being able to have some way of differentiating yourself through your skills is going to be great. So that's something that's quite important. And then another element that's not probably looked at as much, but is probably more important than the actual exercise part itself, in my own personal mind, is the psychology. Because anyone, if you sort of follow me and have a look at some of the people I've interviewed, I have interviewed many of the best trainers in the world that train some of the top celebrities, royal family, that kind of stuff. So they're paying to get the best, and when you speak to all of them, and I always ask the same question, it's consistent, is it's unless you get their mind engaged, you can forget about getting the results in the body. So really understanding the psychology or psychology in terms of habits, rituals, motivation, limiting beliefs, that kind of stuff. And unless you're able to understand the psychology, then it's going to be very difficult to be successful in getting people results, because they're going to revert back to different things over time. And so that's a really, really key part and a key skill I'd sort of suggest that they search out and try and find some way of, combining mental health and physical health, because they go in hand, and they all start in the mind.
Yeah, that's amazing, because it's something we always branch off of, and just kind of follow up a little more on that is, if you don't, even personality, if you don't understand how someone's personality is, because you don't have that understanding, you might say something that you deem is motivating, but they're going to take it the opposite way, and it's going to set them back. So you're already taking something that's hard for most people, which is keeping that accountability when it comes to working out and exercising and eating right. And then you're saying things that you think are great, but they're taking it the wrong way. So they're backpedaling 6 steps. It's going to create a bridge between you guys. And then all of a sudden, you're going to ultimately losing that client, and they're not going to follow up their health goals for X amount of time, because they're going to say, it's just not for me in the cards. I had a trainer before. It didn't work for me, without the understanding that every single individual is different. So as a trainer, you need to learn to adapt to that individual and understand how they move, how they function, what they want out of it. And like you said, having a psychology behind that and understanding of it can really help your clients achieve new results and really get the benefit of it. Another big point you made was niche training. And I love the quote, a jack of all trades is a master of none, which is so true. And that comes with personal training in of itself. Like, a great example is, I'm never going to train anyone to be a bodybuilder or a power lifter. It's not me. So I always refer out to certain trainers that work for me, or maybe if I don't have a staff for it, I'll send them out, because you might get some results, but you're not going to be ultimately happy with what I can provide, because that's not what I'm great at. My specialty is medicine and rehab. So if you're coming in for something like that, that's a totally different story where another trainer might not have it. So I loved that answer. It was so like, it was triple parted in it. I love how you threw it in the marketing sales aspect. And I did a podcast on NASM CPT with Rick Ritchie all about sales. For any trainers listening, go check that out because that is so much more important than you think it is. So thank you for throwing that in there. You mentioned that you have your own podcast. You told me that previously. And I just want to kind of summarize this for people right now. You own Escape Fitness, you do your podcast, you're a family man, and you still work out. You have all of this, and I'm sure you have plenty more things in your life, and you're still able to keep yourself accountable and like help keep yourself motivated. So how do you do that?
It's about, it's about what's important. It's about prioritizing. I'm not doing anything special that anyone can't do. And I think, it's in a lot of cases, it's like where you sort of, what's important to you, and how are you, what's the hierarchy of that importance. And so for me, working out is the beginning of everything. Working out is important for me and my family. Working out is important for my relationship with my wife. Working out is important for me to be successful as an entrepreneur. Working out is important for me in my podcast. It's central to everything I do. So when you have a choice of, well, do I do this? Do I go and see that person? Even do I spend time with my family? Is that has to just come first, and you have to figure that out. And then, it's just the same as diet. How high up is that in your list of priorities? And if you're not eating well, if you're not working out, then there's probably other things that you're deeming to be more important than that. That's all. It's just decisions, and you're making different choices. And so for me, that comes as number one. Even when we were traveling prior to the pandemic, I used to, we've still got our main business back in the UK, and every month I'll be there for a week. So I'd go from California to London and then back again, which was pretty difficult. And then I'd have a whole list of meetings. But before I did anything, I would have, I'd do some running, I'd do some weights, and then the rest of my day would be geared around that. And I'd have my food set up so that, at least the first 2/3 of the day, everything's ready. My kind of, my green drinks and my protein and my, the food I'm going to have for my lunch, that's all got to be prepared. Because otherwise, if you don't have that stuff organized, then you end up eating bad, you stop working out, you don't feel great, and then everything starts to spiral downwards. So I think it's just a case of priorities, and some people just overcomplicate it as well. You probably overcomplicate fitness, you probably overcomplicate nutrition. Just in a lot of cases, depending on where people are, but just getting just having that discipline of having maybe 3 to 4 or 4 to 5 workouts a week, eating decent food in the right order and sequence throughout the day, getting a decent amount of rest and recovery, and things change pretty rapidly.
Ain't that the truth? I'm going to ask you the $1 million question, which I'm sure you've thought of yourself, which is, how do you get people to prioritize fitness? What's the key for somebody in our shoes to get somebody to realize that fitness and diet should be a priority in their lives? What's the answer?
Well, the answer is that you don't. It's very simple. You can't get people to do something unless they make a decision to do it for themselves. That's really that is the answer. They've got to, and you can try and you can force and you can motivate and you can do all that, crazy stuff, but they've got it. You can, now what you can do is you can help them to come to that decision, which comes back to my point earlier, understanding the psychology of people. You can help them to ask themselves the right questions and come to the right point, but they have to process that themselves. And if you're doing that, then what happens when you're not there? I've had discussions with trainers in the past about these different approaches, but you're not always going to be there. You're not going to be there at 10 o'clock at night when they shouldn't really be crashing the fridge and eating junk. You're not going to be there when they're away on vacation or traveling or anything else. They've got to create that internal motivation themselves. And I think that for people like myself, and I'm sure you, there's obviously things that have happened in your life that have caused you to create that motivation. I always remember the time, and I've spoken about it on a number of podcasts. There was a day when I was a young, sort of early teenager. I kind of had this idea that there would be this day where I'd have worked out so much and I'd have created this sort of perfect body, and that's it. I'm done. I'm out. I've got it. And it dawned on me, actually, that it isn't going to happen like that. It's a case of, right, you're going to get to that stage, yes, but you're going to have to continue this level of work and effort to maintain it. That work isn't just going to stop one day. And I think that's the thing is, when you get that realization that it's got to become part of your lifestyle. It's as important as cleaning your teeth when you get up in the morning. And that's a habit. You realize that if you don't do that, you're not going to have any teeth. Once you realize that is the situation with your health and fitness, and it's as important as cleaning your teeth, probably more, then you go on a slightly different journey.
Yeah, definitely. And something you mentioned earlier in the show was stop overcomplicating fitness or diet, and people just throw these a million things into it and they just get overwhelmed and confused. So we didn't plan this pre-show at all. So I'm going to get fresh top of your head right now. Out of all the guests you've had on your show, your Escape Your Limits podcast, with your 25 years owning Escape Fitness, what are the top 3 things you think people should focus on? Just simplify it. Say, hey, I'm trying to feel better. I need to start doing something. What are the top 3 things as advice you would give someone if they came to you?
Okay. That is a big question, and you're really pulling on my memory now. But I think, so the first sort of caveat I would say is, look, a lot of it is personal. So what works for me is going to be different for my wife. It's going to be different for some of the people that work for me that are just starting their health and fitness journey. So there is a level of personalization that is going to be required. But I think, number one, probably that really made a difference for me is the importance of recovery and sleep, because if you're not getting that, which a lot of people aren't, they don't sleep well for a number of reasons. Maybe they're drinking, maybe they're stressed. There's all kinds of reasons that affect your sleep. I got this, I'm not plugging it, but I got this Aura ring, and I've had this for a couple of years. This has really helped me to understand that. And whenever I speak to a professional in the business, they really are understanding a lot more about rest and recovery, and now that makes such a difference to all kinds of stuff, your hormones in your body, which are going to affect your weight loss and your ability to build muscle and your ability to motivate yourself to get in the gym. So really understanding your sleep, spend some time understanding the implications of that, and working hard on getting that figured out. There was a trainer called Michel Dalcour, you can read him up, very successful guy based up in San Diego. And he said to me, look, in some cases when clients come to him that really need help, the first step for him is just they're not even going to get you working out. He's going to put you on a program of just recovering, trying to reduce your inflammation, trying to rest, get rid of the stress, because putting someone into like a HIIT class, which they think is probably what they need to do when they're inflamed, when they're stressed, when their hormones are all over the place, is just going to do even more damage than what they started. So get that's really important. And I think it's a field that people are really starting to understand a lot more about, and spend some time reading that and understanding that. So that's the first one, I would say.
I just want to chime in because I literally couldn't agree more with you. I was like, please say sleep, please say sleep. And I absolutely 100% agree. It is the most important thing to focus on. But go ahead, number 2.
Yeah, so that's the first thing. I think the second thing For for a lot of people, there's a lot of misunderstandings about the type of training that people need, particularly when it comes to losing weight, and particularly when you get a little bit older and you're sort of over 40s. And I would say, kind of really try and understand the importance of strength training. And there's a number of different ways around it, and you've got to be careful not to go in the wrong direction. But strength training can be very, very simple. Building muscle, it's in order to stimulate a muscle enough to build it is a lot less than what people need. You don't have to spend hours in a gym. And I've learned this recently. There's a guy I'd recommend checking out. It's a little bit controversial, but a guy called Dr. John Jaquish. We had him on the podcast. He's done a lot of great research on training with bands. And I'm, like I say, I'm 51 years old. Your testosterone drops at about 40, so your ability to build and maintain muscle gets a lot more difficult. But since working with him, I've packed on some muscle by doing less than what I've ever done in my life. But the way I'm sort of stimulating the muscle through training, through levels of intensity, and as little as 15 minutes of strength training a day, which some people will sort of not necessarily believe me. And I know I've got a good base, so that makes things a little bit easier. But you don't actually need to do a huge amount. You've just got to do it correctly. So again, getting a good trainer that understands that to be able to build that base of muscle is really important, because one, it's going to help you maintain your weight. It's going to manage your hormones, the food that you're putting through. There's so many benefits, as with strength training. But just understand how to do it in the right way, where you're not creating more issues and injuries and that sort of stuff. So strength training is really key, both for men and women, young and old. You got to get somebody who knows enough about it to help you. So I would say that's probably the second one. And then the third one, I would say third one is your diet. Again, I think people probably overcomplicate it. People probably do a lot of harm to themselves by trying different kinds of diets and eating different kinds of foods and not fully understanding it. And it is a bit of a minefield, because when you're out there, there's so much conflicting information about it. And even myself, I've tried different diets and things throughout the years, and I've met someone that's sort of said to me, look, you're actually doing yourself a lot of damage by using that. And I'm someone that's in the industry, so I can appreciate how difficult it is for people who don't have that knowledge. But generally, getting some good quality proteins is very important. Making sure that you're eliminating a lot of those sort of bad processed foods and sugars and that kind of stuff. Eating clean, and sort of balancing, making sure that the timing of your food is pretty important. When you're eating, when shouldn't you eat, getting that sort of eating window under control, and providing it's good, clean food, providing particularly as you get older, both male and women, you're getting enough good protein intake. And I know this is controversial, but a lot of people I know that don't eat animal food, particularly females, do struggle because they're not getting what they actually need. And there's a lady I know, Dr. Gabrielle Leon, definitely check her out, because she's done some great research on this. But protein is very, very important. And also, if you get your protein in, it prevents you eating all that other crap that you're eating to fill yourself up, because you're not getting what you need from food. So trying to figure out your whole protein and that sort of stuff. And I think if you did those things, invest a little bit of money in trying to get someone that knows what they're doing and to guide you, and do your research in checking out their credentials, you're going to be so much further than everyone else. And it's not going to be this big life-changing thing where you're going to have to give up all the stuff that you don't like. It's going to be something that's actually pretty enjoyable, that you can fit into your life, that makes sense, and you can and it's sustainable almost like forever until you get in your final years. You should be able to continue that, into your 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, or however long you live, really. So that for me is, and is nothing smart and groundbreaking. It's just a lot of it's pretty much common sense.
Thank you for that. That was so in detail. I really appreciated hearing your passion behind everything. And just to recap, 1 was rest recovery, 2 was strength training, and then 3 would be diet, more necessarily eating clean. And not to talk about it, but just to do like a 5-second pitch. I agree with you with, even though it's controversial, I think we see a lot in our field. A lot of people don't eat enough protein, especially women, because they don't eat animal meats. So it's a lot harder to get your sufficient types of proteins in. So I couldn't agree more with that. But I want to start wrapping this up. So last 2 questions I asked every single person. The first one is, if you were to take everything we talked about in the last half an hour and put it into a quick little summary, what would be your take-home message?
Search out the best people that you can find and afford, and you know, as it relates to health and fitness, and get them to at least start you off. You know, don't watch infomercials, don't read social media. You know, don't, not to say that there's not some good stuff in there, but there's also a lot of, you know, marketing bullshit in there. And even if you talk to very high level trainers, of which I have done, when you talk to them about social media, and they all know, like, the stuff that gets the likes and the views is the quirky stuff that they don't actually do. You know, I chatted to someone, I won't give away their name. Well, I think he actually talked about it in his podcast actually, but it's like, look, that the crazy stuff that gets your attention is crazy stuff that gets attention. It isn't what you do to work out. And when you say to them, well, you know, is that something that you use with your clients? I'm like, no, I'm you know, I focus on the fundamentals because those are the things that get results. They just don't, they're not sexy and they're not fun. So if you know, go out there and get the best person or people that you can find and afford, get them, help them to get you on your journey, and then, you know, do some of it yourself as much as you can, and then probably check in and get another expert. And then if you can afford it, you know, work with these people all the time. But if you don't, you know, if you've not got a huge amount of money, then just, you know, try and make that investment to get someone, you know, get a good assessment of yourself, because we're all different. You know, I'm at a different point in my life. You know, you have different, you know, aches and pains and, you know, tightnesses and all kinds of stuff. So if you take a one size fits all and go to a training studio, then you're probably going to create other issues down the road. So if someone can look at you and get a good examination of sort of where you are, tell you what to do and what not to do, then I think you've got the foundations to build the rest of your sort of, you know, health and fitness on there. And the only other thing is, if you want equipment, then obviously go to escapefitness.com. We've got the best fitness equipment out there.
I love it. That's the last question, actually. Where can people find you, get a hold of you, and give me all the good stuff, man?
Yeah, so Matthew Januszek on Instagram. You can kind of see my name there. I'm on LinkedIn for the business side. And then we've got a podcast called the Escape Your Limits podcast, where we, you know, talk about a bunch of this stuff every single week. And then also, you know, our company's called Escape Fitness. You can go there if you're interested in buying some kettlebells or yoga mats or anything else like that you want to use to build out your home gym.
I highly recommend, just even talking to you now, that you people at least go check out your podcast, check out your equipment. You are a very intelligent guy, and I can get that just from talking to you here on the show. So thank you for coming on, and thank you guys for joining us on this week's episode of Health and Fitness Redefined. Don't forget, hit that subscribe button and join us next week as we dive deeper into this ever-changing field. And remember, fitness is a journey, not a destination.